The peer streak. Both examples, the plant example and the ID card and else cards example, connects um, two. It connects two car accidents. Likely, if that somewhere grasp information was true, and it connects me if it was true that the cited Hamburgian comatose that I just heard here and there about, also not having heard about his whereabouts, and later on upon my text I would connect that to family Brandstätter, because there is money if that grouping was transformed into a shall I say band or what, that would further on, like Lidl, like Aldi do, further on give away things no name, but earn upon that. So if there was a comatose behind, and if he was in a mental state of being in which he could produce something tonal, something notes, something music, later on having been suspicious to members of his family and within circles of his friends, when likely having become a brighter one than others, and then they would think, how did that come? Here my story would feed in, and my formerly, one must say, because this has brought to ends, my formerly communicativeness, to be able to talk with else people on else topic, though not possessing all wisdom of this world. If that has been lended to somehow into brains of that one which maybe have been used in order to revive me, then I already before moving to Marburg had become interesting, and when then again the 13 points and so on and so forth, I got connected for being sucked out against no money, because those production of 13 points and being able to get a degree which is exam relevant, though a minor degree, in minor note on a paper, this costs money. I did not come to the idea, though having had the information that 5 other people and so on and so forth, so I indeed got nothing. That comatose, if that one was kept alive over years, then a sociology professor, together with a historian, could develop the idea. Well, we make him a Kyffhäuser, 1,000-year-old former king or what. Um, um, though I have no positive knowledge about the surrounding in which I was brought into when having been pushed by my very brother from the escalator, though I had, because I'm fair and it has to be done systematically, I had to place him also in his surroundings, which maybe even gives a kind of a exculpation, but I did not intend to doing that, but I just wanted to redraw grounds. The the other example is a accident that happened soon after I had met Nadia Tushov. Nadia then only Ziadi, before a Gerhard Tushov would appear, and I also explained why. And this must made her very furious, though she, as a then a student, and maybe if late learned or gotten the idea or the information, she ought indeed have been able to counterbalance it, other than punishing me, for example. Um, I have no contacts with her since 2006, when she would rebuff me and thereby exchanging already personalities, persons, characters. when telling me, here, this is the last amount that you get from me, albeit it was me that Trier had offered to her, well, you are going to Italy and I have money left, why don't I lend you some? Against no interest. So 2006, she tried to cover that and participated in doing me a complete new identity here. That first example, we were at least four. A person that always drove her. She herself, then I think it was the love relationship number one, and me and maybe else people, or it was already love relationship number two. We would visit that site upon having gotten a call. She got that call that her former boyfriend, one of the of a longer arrow former boyfriends and else would get that call, and it was not spoken about any longer. Me now, though not comatose and though not having had an accident, but being in a situation that is comparable, indeed I would argue that collects, and on thereupon would search if there are any connections, and again would pose the question, how did that come that the former living Brandstätter son was all of a sudden a comatose? Did he have a car accident? And was the Herzog, the love relationship number two mother, somehow responsible, in inverted commas though, just by means of giving the information, here in this street where I parked her car, my car, its car, the car that I use and let myself drive. There are certain animals that also allude to my Panzer anecdote, and they would go to oil strings and so on and so forth. This is normal. Those animals do that. So this then would have to be regarded as an attempt of murder if that was the grounding for the car accident, though later having earned loads. If one could argue that and ground that medically, or if one could ground that. If that had happened mid-90s, then I was interesting, because later on people would have to think, how do we, in which setting do we place that car accident in order to keep us all out, and a person that we don't have any contacts with on verges of being drawable in, which for example would be me, but also else people would be of interest. If that Brandstätter had brothers living with him and living else in Germany, I also would connect that to the history of our village that is very old, over 1,000 years old. Then there are other people that would not have had to be taken into any account, other than me standing here, though. If a person in his near, be it his brother, if he had one, or else people, neighborhoods or what, which would then pose the question, had there be a doubling of settings all of a sudden to Hamburg to Brandstätter, if that was true. Then so one would have to ask, how would a person with a condition or so, or with no condition, feel that one half dead is earning and earning and earning, and I don't get to anything, which is describes exactly the situation in which I was placed into. So it tells us, doesn't it tell us that someone is simply like a snake, getting into a new identity and leaving his own old self with, for example, me, to not being able to deal with, because one would not have gotten to any idea had I not done the reconstruction on grounds of that arson that took place, and with the list that suggests here that one, the father had not taken part in politics, the mother also not. They were just teachers. Then we do some nice things with the daughter. That is already at the verges, because we all know that story and find it totally positively formulated peculiarly, and negatively formulated. I met some people here and there and there and there who were totally who suspected without telling me, and me just sensing something, but having had no explanation. Um, here in this week I'm not giving here any recommendations. The question then is, what is going to happen with the comatose? What has happened to the identity of the former friend of Nadia Tushev's, because afterwards, as if he had done his part without having likely having done anything, because he was used to driving that way on a regular basis. He worked there, she was living there, and he would appear all evenings. Yeah, and me, as said previously, people get used that here all in a while people get originals, and else people get to know an interesting story, maybe a voice, and having come to the idea that the one presented is not the original, but was the original. Yeah, are we going to play a huge hide and seek? Likely that had happened prior, because this website that was taken up, I have no positive information. I argued it textually. I had to argue it textually that it must have been the case that very, very special friends of mine, social contacts, were doing me that favor without informing me prior, and without asking for my reaction. Yeah, the reaction you have now, I find it, I cannot, I placed you into context. Ja, genau. Else, so the plant example is connected to Globetrotter. It was for certain no coincidence to sit beside me with a packet of Globetrotters, though he could not foresee that I would take 4 instead of just 1 and smoking it immediately. Then the ID card issue and the red dots allude to another direction, as if to punish me that I had something to tell. Yeah. As if to punish me that upon a visit in the cafe, which I had to pay for the coffee, I had just information here, there. So this connects two people, and both are differently. One is grown up here, likely, if that also was true, having become a result of partially semen from persons in my lower Saxony adjacency, and the other one is GDR. With both, I had nothing to do until I would take up studies here and drink his coffee and pay for it. And having also I had have weak moments, though I don't know if it was that phase that evening. And else having had a living corpse, human corpse beside me, but I have to say, you could have taught me a thing or two. You indeed could have taught me a thing or two. If it was true that you yourself can do a thing or two. This would indeed, Jamila Peer, likely that she, if in adjacency of a Jackson Irvine, coming from a country that possesses snakes and else kind of poisonous animals, that she is being trained to deal with those people, I almost said, animals, whilst I am get here unarmed by the minute. Um, because after the rip out of that tiny plant, um, I um, I did the practical work, and then the then Tuschow-Sierdi couple had enough time, and they used it. I saw it, but again, having been trained to getting used to those kind of things, and not reacting each time. But those things sink in into the subconscious. They would use the opportunity and look here and there. For example, they undertake the effort to push aside my then puppet and look in a space behind for a box and yeah, to see what is in there. They later would follow up and do it thoroughly, and the question is, who put that comment inside in Marokko? So they had been partners in crime, the Tuschows, and later on, likely she would find out how that came about. That person now came into her adjacency, other than having heard a thing or two of her, but it was entirely because of me, and most importantly because of his and his friends and age-wise connected people, maybe study-wise connected people, to having pulled up that business in lastly being in the position, having enabled themselves to take over each identity, which refers back to any eating disorder issue. The fact that I ticked against or for 10 Deutsche Mark a formula, and then I had to think I'm done with it. No, it was differently. They would send a Gerhard Tuschow, likely. That is, I'm not here to comment on that, but Nadia Tuschow-Sierdi, later Nadia Tuschow-Sierdi, they were married. If she did not counterbalance that, even not at all, does not make her a good lawyer, I must say. And social contacts wise, friendship wise, yeah, this is unter aller Sau, ja. To put a world footballer, and even if he likes it, but he is in the ownership of also Australia, to put him under the ownership, to put that one together, if that was true, to put that one in adjacency with such a woman of such a character and with such a history. And wasn't it just for the fact that that story was taken over, as people do here, is yeah, one even could think further and think: is it already a Kriegsgrund? Is it already a casus belli? And how to react upon that? Wouldn't one then want to contest the citizenship as an Australian? I recommend you something. Don't take too many drugs when under watches.